What's up, y'all? You're listening to the My Aggie Nation podcast. I'm Alex Miller, joined by Robert Cessna Cease. Talking about the playoffs. How about it? Talking about the playoffs.
Yeah, I think once again it's always tough when you lose to your rival, which A&M did, but that's in the rearview mirror. And everybody wakes up on Sunday and you see the bracket, you see that there's 12 teams, 10 of them viable candidates to win a national championship, and A&M's one of them. And I think you see that reflected on social media and around town. I mean, a lot of people would love to be in the position A&M's in.
They certainly would. This week's episode, we're going to focus on looking at kind of how the bracket shook out, A&M's possible path to a title, and next week we'll actually get into the matchup between A&M and Miami. So, Cease, I think after Saturday's results, we all kind of expected that A&M would be number 7 in the final rankings unless the committee did something ridiculous like flip-flop them with Ole Miss, which they did not. But was that about kind of what you expected?
Yeah, I had a laugh because I know you get up and go already to church too and things like that, and that's where you talk to a lot of fans. Other than I go out and eat every day. And I had a laugh, and I kept telling everybody Sunday morning, I said, I guarantee it, everybody has A&M number 7. Basically, I looked at everybody has Notre Dame in the playoff deal. I said, everything makes sense. And I said, I could almost bet the committee will not do exactly like everybody thinks they would do. And, of course, they didn't because, lo and behold, Miami's in. Aggies would have probably liked it if Tulane was coming here or George Madison if they'd have done it. But getting back to what you did, yeah, a little twist there because I thought that A&M Notre Dame might come here with A&M being a number 7. And I hate rematches. I know Oklahoma's playing Alabama. I hate rematches because I feel the team that loses always has the edge.
Do you know what number President James Madison was?
12 or 13? 10?
I think he was 4th.
Well, I was going to say it's holy cow. I didn't know I have to study my history. Holy crap! We're gonna do if we do any kind of geometry or physics, forget it.
Forget it. Hey, but this is something that this is going to be a run that A&M fans they want to remember, and so you look at the path though. This is a very challenging path that A&M has ahead of itself. Miami, while yes, they are the 10 seed, they were, kind of the last team in. This is a team that's been on a heater this last month. We'll talk more about them a lot next week, but this is no slouch of a first-round game, Cease.
Yeah, come on. When you look at the situation, if either team loses to Notre Dame, we're probably not sitting here right now. So you think about a fine line between winning and losing for the top 10 teams. Miami's loaded with NFL talent, just like A&M is. A&M's not winning. They do have good coaching, don't get me wrong, but you're not going to win without talent. And when you look at Miami's talent and you look at the bracket, anybody you're going to play, you touched on it. Don't worry about A&M looking ahead. We can look ahead, but there's a reason those tickets are going to be pretty pricey and it should be a good game.
I wrote my column this week, though. Given the fact that A&M has a challenging road ahead, if they can make a run, they actually got a few small breaks in this path. The fact that they would get Ohio State at the Cotton Bowl, that's a pretty sizable advantage for A&M, thinking a neutral field, right? It's Ohio State, but you're playing in your home state again versus having to go to Miami in the Orange Bowl. That was a big question, but it kind of makes sense because if you're the committee, it's probably less of a hindrance for Ohio State to have to play A&M in Arlington than it would be to potentially put Ohio State against Miami on their home field as the higher seeded team.
Yeah, but when you get to this point, I get it. I'll give A&M, 5-6 points by being home this first game. But once you get to the neutral site, even though you're a little bit closer, it's so big, and Ohio State's playing so many of those big games in, quote, neutral sites or somebody in their backyards. So I don't think that'll be – I think it'll be more comforting for Ohio State, for A&M, but I don't think it will be a disadvantage for Ohio State. And once again, I think that makes it a tough bracket. They're the defending champs. But once again, we're talking about the chance. A&M's got a chance, And A&M won, 11 in a row before they lose? They only have to win 4 in a row to go ahead and make you do a special section.
For sure. And then if A&M were to get to the semifinal, they'd play likely Georgia, the 3 seed, in the Fiesta Bowl in Phoenix versus having to face the Bulldogs in their backyard in Atlanta in the Peach Bowl.
That's true. Right now and I was just talking to my buddy. I went to lunch with a guy. You'll once you get to the semifinals, you'd love to play just about anybody. But I think Georgia is probably the one team a lot of teams don't want to play right now. If you had to say you want to pick all your opponents, but the nice thing is if A&M plays Georgia, they've won 2 games. So could you imagine how good and cocky A&M would be? And cocky's probably not the right word. Confidence. Could you imagine how confident A&M would be if they won their first 2 games to put them at 13-1, a place they'd never been? They probably wouldn't even care if they were playing the Houston Texans or the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I think everything else would just be gravy at that point. But hey, the fact that A&M's here and they've got a capable team to go toe-to-toe with some of these teams, a little bit of sense of urgency to strike while the iron's hot, don't you think?
Well, yeah, because once again, as you can see, you might not get back here. Even if they go up quickly, right away. 16 teams, I think they'll go there pretty quick. But look at Texas. Everybody had Texas down the number 1 team going into this year. It was almost a lock they were going to be in their 3rd straight college football playoff. Think about the questions at the SEC media days. It was almost a given by everybody. Even Sarkisian and some of his answers were like, "Oh, we need to get a little better there." A little. You're right, because A&M's had some injuries, but not injuries that's held them back. So you got to do it now.
Hey, they're just the cheesiest team out there. See, getting to play in this cheese bowl. So, Cheez-It Bowl. Sorry, but I don't think many Aggies are upset about them having to go play in Orlando the same day as them as well.
Yeah, once again, and we're seeing what's to me why they also have to go to 16, the separation. Everybody cares about the college football playoff, whether you're in it or not. If you're mad because you're not a fan or whatever, everybody knows who's playing in the college football playoff and win. I mean, it's more so than ever, and everybody goes, "Oh, here's your dark horse. Here's your favorite." A&M's going to be a dark horse for a lot of people. They're not going to be a favorite. But when you think about all the first-timers in the college football playoff, it's not like A&M is the only first-timer. And let's be honest, it wasn't that long ago we're just doing 4. But just excitement for everybody. And like you said, any way you go. I mean, right off the bat, come on, Miami's coming here. That's pretty sweet.
I think the one troubling thing, though, is that for A&M to make a run, they're going to have to go through 2 stalwarts that they've been in the playoff more than they haven't. And that is something, the experiential factor, that will definitely favor Ohio State and Georgia if A&M can get that far.
Yeah, you can't deny that. But I think, Elko touched on that a little bit on his press conference yesterday. When you play in more of these games, it helps you. Yeah, you want to win and winning, but you got to play in these games. And A&M just hasn't played, and nobody has. I mean, Ole Miss hasn't played it. Miami hasn't played in them. Oklahoma hasn't played them. You got to play in these games, and this is excitement for the community, Aggies everywhere, what have you. This is something this is why you play the game. This is why you cover the game. This is why you're a fan. This is why people have given money for the A&M 12-Man Foundation for whatever. This is a reward, so you need to enjoy it.
Okay, I'm gonna throw you on the hot seat. How far do you think A&M goes in the playoff?
Well, I think it's gonna get tough getting past Ohio State. Like you say, you don't want to look ahead, but they did it last year. They got over that hump, and look how long it took them to get over that hump. And they remember that they weren't that long, and they got a lot of talent. They got two NFL wide receivers. They got a lot of talent, and the fact that they're getting an extra week off to get everybody healthy. And I think that people got the bye last year. That that hurts you. Well, it was seeded poorly last year. This year it's not seeded so badly.
It's more so seeded correctly.
And I think the four teams that got the bye, I think it'll be to their advantage. And I think, could any of the people playing those 4 seeds, you bet you win. But Vegas is going to have them favored for a reason. And that's why, I'd have to say it's going to be tough for A&M to get past Ohio State. But because here's the deal, is we've seen this in the SEC title game. A&M could get people hurt in their game. Ohio State's not going to get anybody, hurt unless they open up their Christmas gift bad and cut their hand or something.
Yeah, I'd probably pick the Aggies to go to the quarterfinals and lose probably in a close game to Ohio State. I think A&M's got what it takes to hang in there with them, but that's a tall task for the Aggies. It wouldn't surprise me if they won, but I'm going to take the Buckeyes to beat the Aggies there in the quarterfinals, which at 12-2, that would be a very successful season for the Aggies.
But the hidden motivation factor for A&M there is they want to beat Ross Bork. So, that would help them out a little bit. And, they know Bork wasn't that great a fullback in college. So A&M would have the advantage there because, A&M's AD has a better resume than Ohio State's AD when it comes to football.
Hey, I just missed talking high school football with Ross at the Monday press conferences when his son Peyton was playing for the Consol Tigers. That was always fun to talk up a little high school football with him on Mondays.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad matchup, though, either to Bork and Albert's talking. So, you think about it, those guys know a little bit about football.
Just a little bit, Hey, let's shift gears here a little bit. Heisman Trophy finalists were announced on Monday. Don't think there was any surprise about who they were. You got Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. You got Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt. You got Julian Sayin from Ohio State and Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. No Marcel Reed, though, which I think we all kind of expected after A&M lost to Texas.
Yeah, when you look at it, you always have sentimental deals. And let's be honest, Reed didn't even make the top 3 in the SEC. And let's be honest, I don't know if I'd put him in my top 4, to be quite honest with you. It's a great league when you look at some of the quarterbacks. And he didn't play well in the number 1 game that mattered, was Texas. Now, that's a learning experience. Talking about what Elko said, you use those for learning experiences. I was a little bit surprised, and I know when you see the points come out, it happens every year. There's usually a cutoff between the 3 or 4 or 5 that go. When they have a nice drop off, they don't allow they don't invite those guys. I thought, Rodriguez from Tech, the linebacker, who's had a great year, and he's had a lot of promo. As well he should.
Great story.
Great story. So I thought I didn't think he was going to win it at all.
No.
I thought, but he might get enough to get to New York, but he didn't. And once again, that's why they have 1,500 voters or whatever. So he didn't. So it's always heavy on quarterbacks, but got to give Love credit because he's there.
Hey, that's basically their national title with Love getting to go to New York now that they're opting out of a bowl game. What'd you think of that?
I don't think he'll opt out of the Heisman. He'll go up there and watch it. No. In all seriousness, here's my deal, and I did read your column. I don't have any problem with Notre Dame going out. I hate people like take your ball and go home. We've all had our emotions. We do that. Notre Dame was basically told for 5 weeks, "Hey, you're in the college football playoff. You're in the college football playoff." I guess I would be like, Alex, I'm going to take you with me, because I've been around longer. Let's go cover the Fiesta Bowl. And I tell you that for 5 weeks in a row. And then all of a sudden they go, I'm going to take Jake Weiss. Now I thought, and I forgot, I promised Jake, I'm old. I promised him in the summer I was going to take him. Turns out he's better than you, so I'm going to take him. And you're going to go, what? And the committee, 2 wrongs do not make a right. Should Miami go over by beating Notre Dame? I get it. Put that rule in there, though, so everybody knows ahead of time because, and then you're going to miss a bowl. Even Baylor backed out of a bowl. Okay, how many guys are going to go to the pros? So they're not going to go. How many guys are going to leave and go to the transfer? So the old days you used to say, well, we need those practices. We need those 15 practices. And 3 or 4 of them are crappy practices. They're just walkthroughs or whatever. So, and you don't need more money. Baylor's saving money by not going to a bowl game. So Notre Dame got hosed. Join the list. Who else got hosed before? A&M got hosed back in 2020. I mean, you can go down the list.
By Notre Dame.
but it's just the way it was done. It was like all along they were ranked ahead of Miami. Then all of a sudden, guess what? You lost.
Just think, if Trevor Lawrence hadn't gotten COVID, what it could have been.
It's one of those deals, and I'm doing a column on this tomorrow. You can screw up. You can't screw up college football. It's like, hey, you know what? And on the flip side, Notre Dame's not there. Live with it, and they're living with it. Fine. College football playoffs going to go on without Texas, without LSU, without Notre Dame, and you know what? Viewership will be out of the yin-yang. Everyone loves the college football playoff. It's the one thing you can't screw up.
I definitely think there will be some ramifications that come. Changes,
there you
right?
Go. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see some maybe committee protocol changes of how things are done. I definitely think that the field is going to be expanding.
Yep.
It's probably going to 16 if the SEC, ACC, and Big 12 can just get the Big 10 on board and out of left field with these 24 and 2018 models. That just seems a little egregious. I think 16 is a fair and appropriate number, and it's nice and even. You can still play the first round games. One plays 16, yada, yada, yada. And then you get teams like Vanderbilt and Texas in, and Notre Dame would be in with no questions asked. Yeah. So, and you'd still get guys like James Madison and Tulane in there probably.
See, I think what they ought to do is they ought to have one of those, like when you deal with like your kids when they're 2 or 3, you got one of those boards and you put the different size pegs in the holes. I think they should make the college football playoff committee do that within 3 minutes. And if they can't get all the holes, they can't be on the committee. Because I think that would have eliminated, because obviously they can't put 2 and 2 together. A lot of them can get 4.
Well, and let's be honest, the committee, this was kind of it was a little bit of a tumultuous fall for them with Mack Rhodes having to step away. They had another committee member that stepped down. You bring in someone in the middle of the selection processes and Hunter Yurachek. You bring in another new committee member. That's a lot of change in some key places right in the thick of things, not from the beginning to end,
Okay, here's my deal is you just got to have consistency. I didn't have any problem, actually, with them picking Notre Dame over Miami or having ahead of them because they said, I'm looking at the body of work. That was on the road. They were better. They played better teams. Whatever you did, but don't change in the middle of the deal. Yeah. Don't change the rules. And that's why if they'd have said all along, hey, but then Sunday on the weekend they go, my God, do you know Miami beat Notre Dame? And then they even watch the film. I mean, I guess they
snip, snap, snip, snap. Yeah, you ever seen The Office, Michael Scott?
No. But I'm just laughing. I go like, but once again is, a lot of people hate my decisions. I vote on whatever. You got to live with who you are. You make the bad choices. It was like 2 wrongs don't make it right. But you know what? It's college football playoff. We'll go on. And you know who's in it? A&M.
A&M is in it. Hey, speaking of A&M, the football team's not the only one that has a big game this upcoming week. A&M volleyball team, they're in the Sweet 16 against Louisville on Friday night in Nebraska. What Jamie Morrison's done with the Aggie program is pretty impressive. See if they can get a win and take the team to the round of 8, where they haven't been since 2001. They'd probably likely face the number 1 overall seed, Nebraska.
Yeah, I've been out to one match. I will say this: A&M has reached a point in any sport. You win, they'll show up. You look what's happened in volleyball. And I think the same thing will happen in a few years in men's basketball. And once again, college athletics is booming. And everybody said it was going to worried about the NIL, worry about revenue sharing, whatever. If you win, they will come. And in college football, if you win, they'll really come in force. And they'll come with their pocketbooks open because my guess is tickets will be pretty pricey at Kyle Field to come next week at this time.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to be a scalper searching for a ticket. The other big news this week, A&M hired a new head soccer coach, Bobby Shuttleworth, the associate head coach at Florida State, fresh off a national title with the Seminoles. Be interesting to see what kind of changes and new look he puts on this program with A&M getting a new head coach for just the first time in program history?
Well, Shuttleworth, I can spell. And I just didn't know if this first name, he would go down to one initial after he's here for 1 year, or how that works. You know, yeah, carry on the tradition. But once again, this is a soccer community. And G. Guerreri, what he did, his record and everything speaks for himself. But Florida State's won 2 national championships in the last 3 years. That's where A&M wants to be in every sport. When Trevor Alberts was talking to us, whatever, when you know, a couple weeks ago at a presser, you know, A&M has all the resources. They don't want to just be in the competition. They want to be competing for a national title in everything. And let's be honest, too many teams, or there's about 25 programs are in that same shape for all sports. You can't do it every year, but you got to do it where, like he said, Jamie Morrison is. Last year, Sweet 16. Maybe this year he gets to the Elite 8. If not, he's at the Sweet 16. You got to do that.
Got to do that. Hey, we'll be back next week breaking down the Aggies and Hurricanes. Until then, be sure to check theeagle.com for all of our coverage on A&M sports. See you next time.
Okay.